Love a bit of Fleetwood Mac on a Wednesday afternoon. It's just gone 2:42. It is Rima with you. And I've got a question for you. Are you one of the many parents or grandparents desperately trying to think of new things to do to keep the kids entertained during the school holidays? Well, I'm here to help. Apparently, parents in Leeds plan on spending an average of £426 on activities and days out during the summer holidays. That's a lot of money. That's £198 more on average than previous years. Well, joining me now to give us a little bit of advice on how to dodge that figure, that £426 figure, is play expert Paul Hocker with a little bit of inspiration. Welcome to this show, Paul.
Thanks, Rima. Nice to be with you.
Thank you for being here. Now, does that figure surprise you, Paul? £426 on activities?
It's a lot of cash, isn't it? But I suppose it reflects the fact that not many people are going to leave the country for a break this summer, and they're going to be spending the money in the UK. And I'm saying to people, spend some of that money in London. We've got a great programme of free events going on here. My charity, London Play, is delivering, for example, 20 go-kart builds across central London. So we'll be building go-karts with children outside St Paul's Cathedral and the London Eye, and it's all free, and people can come along and watch the go-karts being built and then watch them being raced. So there's lots going on. I've got a whole list of stuff that will make little tips that will make life easier for some of those parents that might be pulling their hair out at this time of year.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? People are staying within the UK a little bit more. So maybe you're right. That's where the extra cash is coming from a little bit. But what are some of the more popular activities parents are actually opting for and paying for at the moment?
Well, I suppose if you're coming to London, there's the big ticket stuff like the London Eye and London Zoo. But you know, a lot of what you can stretch your pound quite a bit in the big cities. And in London, we've got the Mayor's Let's Do London campaign. And what the Mayor's done, he's recruited. This is quite an unusual thing, but I think it's great. He's recruited 5 children to become mayors of play. And these 5 young mayors of play have chosen 12 activities over the next couple of weeks. That range from completely free to a ticket event, and they've created a tube map. So you might be familiar with the London tube map, all the squiggly coloured lines. Well, it's been reproduced in a very special way to feature those 12 activities across London, and there are all sorts of things like the go-karts that I mentioned that my charity is doing, but also things like outside the National Gallery on Trafalgar Square. There's going to be 30 easels set up. And you can just walk along and sit down and start painting or drawing, what you want, really, right under the gaze of Nelson's column. So this map, this very special map that the young mayors have created, can I give your listeners tell them where to go to find it?
Yeah, absolutely. If people are going down to London, let's have a little listen of where we can be headed.
Sure. If you go to visitlondon.com, so that's very simple, isn't it? Visitlondon, one word.com. Once you're in London, Rima, if you've got a child, if you're travelling on our extensive public transport, the tube and buses, and we've even got trams in some bits of London now, it's free if the children are under 11. So that's a saving. And places like the Science Museum and the Natural History Museum and the V&A, they're all free. And they're like proper modern museums now. They're not about things in glass cabinets. You can actually go and do stuff, fun stuff. And the one thing that kids say they've missed, because let's face it, they've had a horrible year and a half, and childhood is such a short golden window in the human lifetime. A year and a half is a big chunk to lose. What they say they want to do is see their mates, hang out with their family, and hang out in green spaces. And you're listening, I know Leeds very well. It's a beautiful city. And we have in London loads of parks, which might surprise people. We've got all the royal parks like Regent's Park and Hyde Park and all the rest of it, and all the local parks in all the boroughs. They're all free, and that's where the kids want to hang out. And I say to parents that are getting a bit stressed about what to do with their kids, go off to a green space, take a few bits and pieces like a football or, a frisbee, and kind of let the kids find their own fun. kids are naturally inventive and creative, and you don't need
Yeah,
to.
this is the thing that I think we
Mm,
think sometimes, and especially when it comes to entertaining our kids, is we need to actually always be doing something. But you're a play expert, Paul, and one of the things is that I mean I remember when I was a kid, being bored was actually part of the school summer holidays. Like
mm,
you want
mm.
to allow that as well, don't you? Like aside from like going and visiting places, I think it's important for kids to experience that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit like a diet. You want a bit of everything on there. Kids like a little bit of screen time these days. Okay, that's fine. Also, put in the fun outside in nature, fun with your friends. Um, there's so much. The human mind is full of creativity. I've just come back, Rima, from 4 days rather of camping, and in London we had the worst weather. It was like a trip to Atlantis, and the kids, the kids didn't hide out in their tents. They came outside in the rain because they're totally waterproof. They don't care, and they started inventing games using the mud and using the raindrops coming from the trees. And you have to give kids a little bit of space to be creative, and you have to sort of go through a little ring of fire with that, because there might be, I'm bored, but then they will eventually find a way to alleviate their boredom. So
Yeah.
boredom's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, really.
Something magical will come out of it. If there is a parent listening right now, I'm sure there's more than one parent listening right now who's thinking, actually, if I let my kids be bored, that is just going to be terrible. I'm going to be running around after them. I'm going to be cleaning up after them. What's the one bit of advice that you, as a play expert, Paul, would give to our parents, especially because the weather's horrible up here at the moment in Leeds? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not horrible. We're having a little bit of sun, but I'm looking out the window right now and it looks like it's about to chuck it down. So what would you say to parents who are having to corral the kids inside?
Well, what I'd say, remember you were a child once, and remember your golden memories from childhood. And as soon as you do that, you kind of tune into where kids' heads are at. And sometimes just a little activity with a parent, a quiet or a sibling or a mate will be something they'll remember forever. And childhood is so important. I mean, a successful childhood breeds successful adulthood. So don't sweat it too much. Don't chuck a load of money on it. Come to London if you can, just for the day. Or your wonderful city of Leeds. There's plenty to do there, plenty of parks and green spaces. Get out, allow the kids to get a little bit bored, have a few little tricks up your sleeve, a few little games. A game of hide and seek, Rima. I know it sounds silly, but a game of hide and seek.
Something that simple. Yeah, that's exactly what kids love. Paul, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. Play expert Paul Hocker there with a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of let the kids be bored a little bit. If you can make it out of Leeds, if you've got the cash to do that. Paul obviously is from London Play and is trying to get us to go down to our nation's capital. If you can't, staying at home can be just as good. Let the kids be bored. I'm very much a big fan of that. If you don't agree with that, if you're thinking, Rima, if I let my kids be bored, that is just a disaster waiting to happen.